The rain fell steadily over the glittering city skyline, streaking down the windows of the high-rise restaurant where Isabella Carter sat, fidgeting with her wine glass. She was the picture of elegance. Her black dress tailored, her jewelry subtle yet commanding, her posture poised from years of boardroom battles. To everyone else in the room, she was the untouchable CEO of Carter Holdings, a single mother who had built her empire brick by brick after her husband's death. But inside, Isabella felt the sharp pang of loneliness, a void success could never fill. Her best friend Marissa had convinced her to try something unthinkable for a woman of her status, a blind date. "You spend too much time at work," Marissa had scolded. "You deserve happiness, Bella. Love doesn't show up in financial statements." And so, against her instincts, Isabella had agreed. Yet now as she glanced at the elegant couples dining nearby, she felt foolish. What kind of man could possibly understand her life? What man wouldn't be intimidated by the empire she carried on her shoulders? Just as she considered leaving, the Maître d' approached. Behind him stood a man who looked utterly out of place among the polished suits and diamond watches. His shirt was clean but worn at the edges, his shoes scuffed from long hours of labor. His hands, though freshly washed, bore the faint marks of callouses. "Ms. Carter," the Maître said cautiously, "your guest has arrived." Isabella blinked. This was him. This was her blind date. She forced a polite smile as the man stepped forward, his posture unsure but his eyes steady and kind. "Good evening," he said softly. "I'm Daniel, Isabella," she replied, extending her hand. His grip was firm but gentle, his palms rough from hard work. He seemed nervous but not apologetic, a man aware of the gulf between them yet unwilling to shrink under it. As they sat, silence stretched for a moment before he chuckled quietly. "You don't have to pretend. I know I don't exactly fit here." His honesty caught her off guard. "I wasn't going to say that. But you were thinking it," he said, smiling faintly. "It's okay. I almost didn't come. When Marissa told me about this blind date, I thought she was joking. Why would a woman like you waste time on a janitor?" His words were blunt, but there was no bitterness in them. Just simple truth. Isabella tilted her head, studying him. "Why did you come then?" He hesitated, then shrugged. "Because sometimes life surprises you, and maybe I wanted to see what kind of woman agrees to meet a man like me without knowing who I was." Isabella's lips curved despite herself. "And what do you think?" Daniel smiled, warmth flickering in his eyes. "I think you're braver than most millionaires." For the first time that evening, Isabella laughed, a genuine laugh that startled even her. The conversation flowed more easily after that. He told her about his job, late nights mopping office floors, early mornings scrubbing classrooms. He didn't complain, didn't dramatize. He spoke with quiet pride, as though dignity could be found even in work most overlooked. She found herself listening, truly listening, in a way she hadn't in years. His stories were not about boardrooms or acquisitions, but about small acts of kindness, sharing sandwiches with a coworker, helping a child pick up dropped books. And somehow, those stories mattered more than all the mergers she had celebrated. In turn, she shared pieces of herself she rarely revealed. Not the CEO, not the strategist, but the mother who read bedtime stories late at night, the widow who still kept her husband's watch on her nightstand, the woman who sometimes cried in the shower so no one would see. Daniel didn't flinch, didn't pity her. He simply listened, nodding softly, his gaze steady. For once she felt seen, not as an empire, not as a trophy, but as a woman. Dinner stretched late into the night. When the check arrived, Daniel reached instinctively for it, though his wallet was worn and thin. Isabella touched his hand gently. "It's fine," she said. He looked embarrassed. "I didn't come here for a free meal." "I know," she replied softly. "That's why it doesn't matter." They walked out together into the cool rain. Isabella's driver waited nearby, but she lingered under the awning. "Do you need a ride?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "The bus is fine." Something in her chest tightened. Most men she met fought for status, for recognition. But Daniel carried no mask, no pretension. Just honesty. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For reminding me what it feels like to be normal." He smiled, tipping his head slightly. "And thank you for reminding me that not all millionaires forget how to laugh." She watched him walk away into the rain, shoulders squared despite the storm. Her driver opened the car door, but Isabella hesitated, heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. Against every instinct she felt something blooming. A fragile seed of connection planted on a blind date she had expected to regret. At home later that night, Isabella tucked her daughter, Sophia, into bed. The little girl looked up sleepily. "Mama, you're smiling. Did you have a good night?" Isabella brushed hair from her daughter's forehead, her heart aching with tenderness. "Yes, mi vida. I think I did." But as she kissed her daughter goodnight, she couldn't shake the image of Daniel's steady eyes, his humble smile, the honesty in his voice. She had lived her life surrounded by wealth, But tonight she had glimpsed something richer. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. The following days passed in a blur of meetings and deadlines. But Isabella found her thoughts drifting constantly back to Daniel. It frustrated her. She was a woman of control, a strategist who could bend markets to her will, yet she couldn't stop replaying the sound of his laughter, the honesty in his eyes. One evening, after tucking Sophia into bed, Isabella sat alone in her study. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marissa. "So, how did the blind date go?" Isabella hesitated, then typed back, "His different." Marissa's reply was immediate. "Different good, or different run, for the hills." Isabella smiled faintly. "Good, too good, he's a janitor, Marissa, a janitor. What kind of life could we have?" But even as she typed the words, a pang of guilt hit her. Why should his job define his worth? Wasn't she the one who always preached that character mattered more than titles? The next morning, Isabella walked Sophia to school. As they crossed the courtyard, Sophia tugged her hand. "Mama, that's the man from your date." Isabella followed her daughter's gaze. There, pushing a mop bucket down the hallway, was Daniel. He looked up, surprised, when Sophia ran over with the fearless warmth only children possess. "You're Daniel?" Sophia asked brightly. He chuckled. "I am, and you must be Sophia." Sophia grinned, her eyes sparkling. "Mama never smiles after dinner meetings, but she smiled after you." Isabella flushed, half embarrassed, half amused. "Sophia." But Daniel only smiled gently, his eyes meeting Isabella's. "I'll take that as the best compliment I've ever received." Over the weeks that followed, their paths crossed more often. Sometimes it was at Sophia's school, where Daniel worked nights. Sometimes it was at the cafe near Isabella's office, where he grabbed coffee before his shift. Each time their conversations grew longer, warmer. He never asked for anything, never tried to impress her. He simply talked about books he liked, his dreams of traveling one day, the pride he took in caring for his younger brother after their parents passed. Isabella, in turn, shared pieces of her world. The pressure of running a company, the loneliness of being judged by her wealth, the constant fear of failing her daughter. One evening, after Sophia's school play, Isabella found Daniel standing at the back of the auditorium, still in his work uniform. "You stayed," she said softly. "Of course," he replied. Sophia was the brightest star on that stage. Someone had to clap the loudest. Her heart tightened. Few men had shown such genuine interest in her daughter. For Daniel, it wasn't about impressing Isabella. It was about seeing Sophia, really seeing her. As they walked out together, rain began to fall again. Isabella instinctively raised her umbrella, but Daniel tilted it over her and Sophia, letting the drops soak his own shoulders. She glanced at him, moved by the simple gesture. "You'll catch a cold," she murmured. He grinned. "I've been through worse storms." For Isabella, something shifted that night. She realized she wasn't falling for grand gestures or wealth or titles. She was falling for the quiet strength of a man who asked for nothing and gave everything. But not everyone approved. At the next board meeting, whispers spread. Some executives had seen Isabella with Daniel. They didn't hesitate to voice their disapproval once the meeting ended. "Ms. Carter." One board member said carefully. "You're the face of this company. Associating with someone like him could damage our image." Isabella's jaw tightened. "Someone like him? A janitor?" The man said bluntly. "What will shareholders think if the CEO is seen dating below her status?" The words stung, not because she believed them, but because they revealed how shallow her world could be. She ended the meeting abruptly, her mind a storm. That evening, she confided in Daniel. "They think you're not good enough for me," she admitted bitterly. Daniel listened quietly, then said, "And what do you think?" She looked at him, tears pricking her eyes. "I think you're the only person who makes me feel like myself." He reached for her hand, rough palms warm against her skin. "Then that's all that matters." Still, doubt lingered. Could love survive in a world obsessed with power and appearances? Isabella wasn't sure, until one night fate gave her the answer. Sophia had come down with a fever. Isabella rushed her to the hospital, panic clawing at her chest. Hours passed as doctors ran tests. Exhausted, Isabella sat by the hospital bed, head in her hands. Then the door opened, and Daniel slipped inside. His uniform smelled faintly of bleach, his eyes full of concern. "Marissa called me," he explained softly. "I came as soon as I could." Isabella broke then, tears spilling freely. "I can't lose her, Daniel. She's all I have." Daniel knelt beside her, taking her trembling hands. "You won't. She's strong, just like her mother." Through the longest night of Isabella's life, Daniel stayed. He fetched water, spoke to doctors, whispered stories to Sophia when she stirred. He didn't leave until the morning sun broke through the blinds, casting golden light on Sophia's recovering face. As Isabella watched him gently tuck the blanket around her daughter, realization struck her like a wave. Money, power, image, none of it mattered. What mattered was this: a man who showed up, who stayed, who loved without condition. When Sophia finally smiled weakly and whispered, "Thank you, Daniel," Isabella knew the truth. She had found her partner, not in the gilded circles of wealth, but in the humble heart of a janitor. Weeks later, when gossip swirled louder than ever, Isabella stood before her board with Daniel at her side. Her voice was steady, unyielding. "You hired me to lead this company," she said firmly. "And I will. But my personal life is mine. If you judge me for choosing a man of integrity over a man of status, then perhaps you should question your own values." The room fell silent. For the first time, Isabella wasn't just a CEO commanding profits, she was a woman demanding respect. In the months that followed, Isabella and Daniel built a life together. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. He taught Sophia how to ride a bike, she taught him how to dance in the living room. They burned dinners, laughed over late-night movies, and found joy in small, ordinary moments that felt extraordinary simply because they were shared. And when Isabella lay in bed one night, Sophia asleep down the hall, Daniel's arm wrapped around her, she whispered into the darkness, "I never expected this." Daniel kissed her temple softly. Sometimes love finds us where we least expect it. For a woman who had once believed true love was lost forever, Isabella now knew she had found it in the most unlikely place. Not in wealth, not in power, but in the heart of a man who had nothing, except everything she needed,